Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I'm leaving.
Hello and welcome back. We are still breaking up with our BS. This is episode number 69, and I am Tawny Santabria.
And I am still JDK Winnikin.
You
Still
are always and forever.
Still me, and always breaking up with more BS.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we are who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, welcome to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us for another episode. Thank you, Tawny, for joining me for another episode. How are you?
Of course, I'm doing well.
Good.
Doing well.
Good. Things settling down from the holidays, rolling into the new year.
I'm getting my groove back.
Yeah?
Yeah. I kind of, let the groove sort of sit on the shelf for a little bit as I sort of just recovered, right? And so now I'm bringing it back in.
So the groove couch potatoed for a while, and now it's back.
Yeah. So I'm getting up in the morning early, working out,
Wow.
with my dog and doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Having fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. I decided coming into the new year, even though I don't really do resolutions, I just decided that after a conversation with my trainer that I was going to make my sessions with him and spin classes that I do with him non-negotiables going forward.
Yep.
Because they've been when I'm doing them consistently and not putting them off for something else or always rescheduling them, prioritizing other things. When I do them, I feel great, and so much else falls in line. So I just decided that I was not going to negotiate on those, and it's been great.
It's one of those things where you just don't want to think about it too much. You just know you got to go do it and just go do it. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Because you'll talk yourself out of it if you think about it.
Exactly. And so far it's going really well. So I feel really good. My sleep's better. My appetite's in the right spot for the right things.
Mm-hmm.
We talked last week about intentionality and then consistency.
Yep.
I've been thinking about that. So applying that. Okay, consistency in the end rather than the big grandiose.
Totally. That last outcome thing.
Exactly.
Right.
I'll take care of itself. So I've been doing that.
Good.
And then it's funny. So I felt very grown up, right? Very adult in that sense. And then right alongside that, the other day I'm on Amazon, I had some credits that I wanted to spend. And all of a sudden there's this Lego set pops up. They know how to do that over there, right? They know like what you like. And it's a Star Wars Lego set.
Oh boy.
And it was on sale.
Oh.
And I wanted it. And so I got
it. Trifecta.
I know. It was great.
Wow.
And you almost I felt like this sense of I must take advantage of this because it's on sale. Mm-hmm. So I got it, showed up a few days later, and I built it. And it was so fun. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine said to me, "Oh, you indulged your inner child on that one." And I kind of was taken aback a little bit. I understood what they meant. But then I went,
What did they mean?
Just that I guess that I bought a toy and built the toy. And that was like my inner child. I was like, but my reaction was I can see the look on your face. My reaction was, I'm a grown-ass man who wanted that.
Right. And doesn't Legos do like 3 to 100 or something? Isn't it supposed to be
everybody.
to like 100?
Yeah, it's like 3 and up, ages 3 and up, or whatever it
something.
is. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't ever say you have to stop this.
Right.
It doesn't say if you're 49 years old, like JD, don't build this.
Okay.
But that was the idea, right? That I guess because it was a toy. But it hadn't occurred to me that way. It was just like I like Star Wars and I wanted that one and I built it and it's sitting on my table and it's rad.
And so something about if you're an adult, you wouldn't or shouldn't want to play with a toy?
That's the thing. I started wondering about that.
Oh.
I don't think my friend meant that.
Sure,
it was just this idea, I guess, because the idea is that your inner child likes to play and plays with toys and stuff like that. I'm like, pretty sure my grown man likes to do that stuff too. And it just got me wondering.
Yeah.
And to me, sometimes I wonder where our BS stories come up around. Talk about shoulds, right? Mm-hmm. A grown man should not, and certainly there's things probably, right?
I'm sure there are some things.
Should be doing.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
That's not one of them, right? In my opinion. But it got me thinking about that relationship between,
right.
When, particularly in responses, like having fun. I realize why we call that a childhood. We learn that in childhood, having fun, blah, 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 or we can't. But childhood responses as opposed to adult responses. I just got thinking about that. What comes
Yeah.
up for you with that? Anything? You've
It's
got a lot.
Oh my
of
gosh,
gears
so
turning.
many things are coming up, and so I'm trying to figure out like, okay, where do I go?
I'm going to
here
sip my coffee
first?
while you figure it out.
Yeah, just get cozy and comfortable because this is probably going to take a while. No, but actually, okay, the first thing that comes up for me is fun. Why is it that children get to have fun and somehow adults aren't supposed to have fun? Like, I get one of the things, right? Children do learn through play.
Yes.
Right. So that fun and play has to be available to kids for them to even be able to start learning.
Totally.
Right. And when we take that away, certainly then they don't learn as well.
Right.
So it serves a purpose for sure. And as adults, we probably could learn through fun and play too, would be my guess. Right.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So that learning through fun and play, we probably want to have in childhood, into preteen, into teen, into adult, into senior citizen. Like if we could just keep that kind of going throughout all the stages of development, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Some things we don't need to keep
Yes.
throughout all the stages
Yes.
of development.
Yes.
But fun and play, let's keep that. Let's not make that a child thing or only belonging to a certain group. We just get to keep that going through our life. That would be really helpful for us adults because we don't want to get too serious and too like rigid and too stuck. We want to keep that fun and play going. So
Absolutely.
good for you.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. And, there is something fun and rewarding, too, I think, for kids and adults alike. With a Lego set, you get this thing and you get to build it. And you get the book and you have to follow the directions. And sometimes it gets tough because there's millions of pieces. And if you put one piece in the wrong place and you don't realize it for like 3 pages, that gets tough. But nevertheless...
so it's not like putting a table together when you get it from IKEA or something, because that is not fun.
It's not verbal. Like, directions aren't verbal with Lego, just like with IKEA. It's similar.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My nephew loves Lego still to this day. And he's loved them, since day one. It's just the standard thing he always got for every gift. He wanted Legos. He still does. And he's trained to be a pilot, right? So he's in a grown-up job, moving toward a big grown-up job. And yet he still has that, still has that fun. And he loves to fly, So, he kind of has that going on too. So I thought about him in regards to all this. I'm like, so if it's good enough for my nephew, it's good enough for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know that things have to, again, stop and they're only just for, I'm really enjoying my grandbaby's toys right now.
Are you?
Yes. So we have a great time with some of his 18 plus toys, right?
really?
18 months.
18
months plus toys.
Good
So
clarification.
I know. I feel like, I'm plus 18 plus.
Does he still have that airplane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Loves the
Yes, he
airplane.
loves the airplane. So,
Yeah.
so I'm having a great time playing with some of those toys
I
right
bet.
now. But I think if we are going to separate out sort of like what needs to remain in childhood and what, doesn't need to go with us, well, I guess it's the same thing. Remain in childhood and not have with us in adulthood would be some of those childhood like coping mechanisms.
But yeah.
So we definitely probably want to differentiate there because we can't really fully be an adult if we've got those childhood coping mechanisms on board.
Right. That can dominate that can come up in a pretty, maybe most likely a very important situation where it'd be better if they didn't.
Right. Or they could just limit us quite a bit in terms of what our goals are or what experiences we want to have in our life.
Yeah.
So those, let's keep fun and play for sure. But some of those coping mechanisms that we've kind of talked about in other shows, we can continue to talk about them. But in order to be an adult, full on adult, we want to start letting go of those coping mechanisms
those little things.
that
So
served a purpose.
Like what are some big ones that come up a lot that you've
So
seen?
people pleasing,
Okay.
perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those two are huge, right? Anything that protects us, isolating ourselves or withdrawing, those could be, right? So remembering that as a child, we didn't have full say in our life.
Correct.
Of course, we couldn't make our own money. We didn't have our own house.
Yeah.
We couldn't drive a car.
Couldn't buy our own food.
Right, exactly. So we were dependent on the adults in our home to take care of these things for us. And they came with their own skill sets and abilities. And we didn't get to choose that, and away we go.
Yeah.
And so we learned different ways to survive childhood.
Mm-hmm.
We learned who to make sure in our family was doing okay.
Yeah.
Right. Making sure not to get on the bad side of a particular
Which
parent.
could lead to things like isolating and withdrawing and
Or even people pleasing.
people pleasing.
Right. Having to be the caretaker of our parents even, right?
Sure.
That could be a survival mechanism,
Yeah.
right? So all of those things really important in childhood because we need to survive it. And then we don't want those things as an adult. They no longer work. It's almost, I wish we knew this. We could just be like
An alarm would go
right,
off,
an
or
alarm
flag
would go
pop
off.
up.
Right, yeah. But we don't know this. And so we continue to bring childlike behaviors
Yeah.
and into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And we wonder, why in the heck am I so miserable? Or something along those lines.
Yep. Or why do these things keep happening? Like these responses come up in common situations,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you see this like with any of your clients, but man, in relationships,
All the time.
the same patterns.
Completely.
People find the same type of people or they do the same thing and it ends up the same way. And they ask themselves the question time and time again, why does this keep happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, part of those childhood response mechanisms.
Right, because if we're a kid and we've got a parent who's upset, not even at us, but they're upset, stressed out, lots going on, whatever. We notice this as a kid. If our coping mechanism is to be like, I'm going to my room and I'm going to hang out there for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And then we become an adult and now we're in a relationship and our partner is stressed and we're like, well, I'm going to go hang out in my room for a little while.
Or they're lashing out. They're just upset, right?
Totally, or whatever. Right.
Personalize it and run.
That may not be the best way to go if we want to maintain this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Just, kind of getting out of there isn't necessarily going to show our partner that we value or care or want to support or want to understand or want to work as a team.
Yeah.
Right. So as a kid, it kept us safe.
Right.
Go to your room. Yeah, absolutely. If parents are okay with that, go. Get some space.
Yep.
Right. In your relationship as an adult, that is not going to serve you very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so instead, adulting, which is a weird word, by the way.
Adulting, yes.
Adulting. So adulting in that situation, instead of going to the room, what does an adult do?
Well, an adult would probably want to stick around for a hot second or even longer, right? They're going to want to build in some communication skills.
Ask some questions.
That work well with our partner, right? So we definitely want to also know what our childhood coping mechanisms were.
Yeah.
And are, right? Because if we're still carrying them, we want to know all about these buggers so that we can start to call ourselves on it. An adult is going to call themselves on it. They're going to be able to say, oh, child, here you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're not going to help me out here. You're actually hurting me.
Not going to listen to you. Right
now. Yeah. We're going to be able to be more discerning.
Oh, that's key.
Yeah. It's really important.
Yeah.
Because we have the cognitive ability to do it, even though we might believe we haven't proven it to ourselves.
Sure.
Because again, if the childlike stuff pops up every time we're getting stressed or uncomfortable, then we're not going to really believe necessarily that we can trust our adult.
Right.
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 So we want to be able to be aware and learn and figure out what these things are for us.
Yeah. And not be frightened when they pop up or feel like the only thing you can do is indulge them. Right? You have to have other options.
Well, at first, that's what you're going to believe.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Of course.
But then as we start to really get a handle around what they are and we start to work with them and understand that it's like, okay, yeah, I know why you're here. You kept, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you know what? You stayed around too long.
Yeah.
And it's time for you to go.
You're no longer helpful. Got to call the adult in here.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not about a part that needs to be criticized by ourselves to ourselves.
Sure.
It's not a part that needs to be made bad. It's just a part that's overstayed its welcome.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be indulged or ignored, it seems like, or invalidated necessarily.
Yeah. And to change anything, we have to notice it. Yeah. We have to be aware of it to then do something different. Right.
Yeah, because it's like the BS stories, right? The BS stories that can torment us for a really long time, even after we recognize them for a long time for stories, they can still pop up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, happens to me. You know, they're just not as powerful, right? Or I'm aware of them faster.
Well, and you choose to do something different with them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and that's its own level of work, you know, thinking about in relationships. It's like you can tell yourself in that situation, I'm not going to run from this like I did when I was a child. But you also want to have some, like you said, communication strategies, which means you have to know where you're coming from, what works for you. Probably you need to know more about how your partner, you know, what's most effective there. That takes some work.
Well, yeah, if it's worth it to you, adults will work hard for things that are worth it to them.
There we go. There's our quote for the day. Adults will work hard for the things that are worth it to them.
Because it does take hard work for the things that are worth it to us.
Yeah, and talking about, we've talked so many times on this show before about becoming comfortable with discomfort. You know, speaking from experience, when you're aware a childhood response is in play in a situation that matters or that maybe, and oftentimes for me, it's when something unexpected has popped up. You know, you're just uncomfortable in that while you're trying to figure out or trying to navigate that in a different way, you know? And sometimes I found that it's just really important to just be like, all right, okay, that's popped up. And I don't necessarily really know what to do right now, but I know that I don't want to disengage from this. You know, sometimes just that honesty is helpful, at least for me.
Well, and whatever is going to help to start to differentiate
Yeah.
and start to create some clarity and reinforce the idea that, and the belief that, you know, again, as children, we weren't really free to choose.
Yeah.
We had very limited possibilities or strategies within the family home. There's only so much maneuvering we were able to do. And as an adult, we've got a lot more space, whether we like to believe that or not, in order to maneuver and strategize and have some clarity around actual choice. So we want to make sure that we're reinforcing, I do have more freedom here than I probably believe I do.
Yeah.
So let me check this out for a second.
Yeah. Where is my agency here? You know, and in those moments, it can be difficult sometimes to see those fundamental questions.
That's why you do the work ahead of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we've talked about, like if you can do the getting into the body and the breathing, even around smaller things, when the big stuff pops up, you know, you've got practice.
Yeah.
You know, doing with that. Yeah. And that's been immeasurable for me, you know, in those things. And sometimes, and more often than not, these pop up and when I'm just having a response to something that's happening around me. It may not be in a relational dynamic, but then I'm having conversations with myself going, oh, isn't that interesting? That's what's coming up. Oh, you've been telling yourself that story for a good 10 minutes. Where have you been? What can you do to bring yourself back a little bit? You know, all that practice, you know, that feels more like being an adult than just running amok with the emotional response I'm having to something.
Sure. Yeah, that internal awareness is required for adults nowadays. You know, maybe way back when we weren't inundated with so many distractions and so many stimulating kinds of mechanisms that pull our attention into wasted time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We didn't have that way back when at different times in our you know, time on the planet here. But now we have so much of that in order to really kind of stay the course of being an adult, you've got to have some strategies around internal awareness in terms of like, what do I value? What are my coping mechanisms that get in the way? How am I sabotaging myself or limiting myself? What are the stories doing to my own perspective around what's happening? Yeah.
And am I pouring gasoline on this emotional fire by letting these stories in my head run amok? Yeah. I mean, it's really true. That's an interesting idea that this is something that we've kind of come through the other side on this, where once in our collective past, we probably were more able collectively to engage in these things because of lack of distraction and more necessity in the moment. And now we're kind of running this gauntlet as we have for the last handful of 100 years of this. And now we're coming on the other side going, yeah, we might need to re-engage with this.
Well, right, to save ourselves. My gosh,
no
right?
kidding.
Because we are overtaxing so many parts of our...
And trying to over-control, outcomes, and
completely.
and I personally think with so many of the things that are out there that drive us all nuts and that we battle over in the external realm, so much of that is a desire to control something, to either prevent something from happening or a frustration with something that is happening. That really in the end, we want to see everybody else change, but we have to figure out a way to live with ourselves.
Well, and we've not ever been taught that.
Right.
So we've been taught to control the things, maybe not use these words, but we've been taught to control the things we cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
Control your future.
Yeah.
Right. Control other people with boundaries and things like this. Well, that's what we've been taught to do. And it doesn't seem to be working as well as maybe we'd hoped.
Well, yeah, because we're not really taught necessarily the difference in real time between, for things like boundaries versus barriers,
Totally.
Because if a boundary is really a wall, it's nothing good.
Or if it's a way to control another person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's that as well. So there's so many of those things that can pop up in, just about everywhere. And so, for me, one of the things that's been so powerful about this presence-based work that we do is that it's this reminder when these things come up, and I've gotten better at just breathing. Wow, I have a lot of resources internally. More agency, more choice.
Sure.
Pick your word.
Sure.
With
yeah.
this. And it helps me kind of see things that maybe once upon a time I didn't see before. Things like, what? This email I just got that has my, I'm all worked up about. I don't have to respond to this right now.
Because you're an adult.
Because I'm an adult. And in fact, in theory, I can even ask myself the question, do I need to even respond to this at all?
Sure.
And if I do I really need to engage in whatever it is this person's determining need to be engaged in? Or can I just respond how I want?
Because you're an adult.
I'm an adult.
And you get to respond how you want.
Yep. And so, it presents me more often than not faster than it used to. The awareness that I've got options and that I don't have to follow my initial emotional impulse.
Right. Right. Yes. I think that when we are so used to utilizing the perfectionism stuff, the people-pleasing stuff, the trying to over-control something, because that's what we're supposed to do in our life, to either get ahead or be happy. We can't even sift out what's real and where is my choice and where isn't my choice. We think we actually are choosing, and we're not.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, right?
That's the ultimate BS story right there.
Right. But we think we are. We're making this choice, right? And so if we're present, if we're, I don't want to say calm, but if we're sort of centered and grounded in our body in such a way that we're very clear and aware what this experience that we're currently in is and how the childlike coping mechanisms are trying to bully us into responding, like we can really kind of see this map thing play out or this thing clearly, then our response as an adult is going to probably be a good enough one.
Yeah.
We're not going to be at risk of just like flying off the handle and responding with some kind of, an inappropriate or problematic response. That's where the childlike coping mechanisms are happening, right? So that's the other part. It's like, what do you mean I can respond how I want when I tell my clients, like, no, you get to choose, right? So what if I choose wrong? Okay, hold on.
What if I choose wrong?
Right.
I've
Okay.
heard that too. Yeah.
That's the people pleasing. That's the perfectionism stuff coming in. That's the childlike coping mechanisms asking, what if I choose wrong?
Yeah.
Right. So we got to take that question off, right? If you know yourself very clearly, if you are an adult fully, and you're ready to take responsibility for your own actions, you're ready for you're ready for hard work, you're ready to make your life the way that you want it to be, you're going to respond probably okay because you understand the complexities and the web-like type stuff that is real in relationships and at work and those kinds of things. So then you get to start to trust yourself.
Yes. And recognizing when something's coming up that, you know where it came from, but you also know it doesn't work anymore, and you can explore options for choices on what to do differently. Yeah. Yeah, it reminded me there was one point when I was making that Lego set where I actually did get something wrong. And it took me a few steps to realize. When I was a kid, that used to stop me in my tracks. Right? Oh, I get so upset, And this time I was like, okay. I was aware of it, right? That remembered like, yep, just go back, just do it again. And it was fine. But continuing with the childhood response would have either been like ruining the fun by getting mad, or stopping building the thing, or throw it against the wall or the floor like I would do when I was a kid. Because I didn't do it perfectly, right? It's supposed to be easy. It's still a challenge for me with like jigsaw puzzles. Jigsaw puzzles make my brain hurt when I look at them. Part of it is because I didn't have the patience for them as a kid.
Well, so what you don't want to do is, one year for Christmas, I got this beautiful jigsaw puzzle from hubby Dave that was a picture of my 2 kids, right? And it was this really nice, because I like puzzles, really big puzzle, lots and lots of pieces. He ordered it in black and white. I have never been able to put that thing together because that's not fun. Every piece looks the same. It's a beautiful picture. I love it. I hope I get it done one day. I probably won't. But you can't do that.
Yeah.
It needs to have some color so I know where the shirt is and the eyes are and things like that. Yeah. Anyways, jigsaw puzzles, but.
Oh yeah, we're running low on time. Speaking of Legos, my parents got a Lego one that's all a jigsaw puzzle. That's all the Lego figure heads, but they're all the same.
Oh, see?
Brutal. Brutal. Or the ones that are just white.
Yeah.
Just like a white. Yeah.
Anyway. I don't know. Anyways.
That's causing unnecessary adult problems.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, this was good. This is good. Well, I got a lot more to think about here. Anyway, always more. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully all of you got a lot of things to consider out of that on this episode of Breaking Up with RBS. We'll be back next week. Make sure if you haven't checked us out, check out our YouTube channel, Breaking Up with RBS. Check out Tawny's 6-week self-mastery course where you can apply these principles to your own life in your own setting at unperfectyourself.com. And you can find this episode and all the other episodes of this show wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for subscribing, leaving us a comment, reaching out to us. And we will see you next week. Until then, I am JDK Winnikin.
And I'm Tawny Santabria.
We will see you soon.
Stop it now, I mean it.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.
Usa que